Well, to discuss that a bit further, we're now joined with Mr. Mark Glenn, who is with the Crescent and Cross Solidarity Movement, who's joining us now from Idaho. Sir, thanks a lot for joining us. Now, how do you react to Mr. Falk's statements?
Well, before I react to Mr. Falk's statements, I'd like to react to what Susan Rice said, characterizing these statements as offensive and false, and saying that Falk should be removed. Let's keep in mind that just within the last 2 or 3 days, Ms. Rice gave an interview with the Forward magazine, one of the most prestigious Jewish publications in the United States, where she proudly boasted of the fact that her role as United States ambassador to the UN, one of the most important roles that she fulfills in this job, is by defending Israel. She said that a major part of her work is defending Israel's legitimacy, saying, "It's a huge part of my work at the United Nations." She also was quoted saying in the same article, "We will not rest in the crucial work of defending Israel's security and legitimacy every day." So that's the first thing that I'd like to comment on, is that Ms. Rice is not speaking as ambassador to the United Nations on the part of the United States, but rather she's speaking as a mouthpiece for Israel. That's number one. Number two, what Mr. Falk said is exactly correct. If we're to put aside all of the other issues involving this bombing as to whether there was any kind of skullduggery involving any third players involved in this, and just accept it at its face value that these two brothers carried this out as a result of what the United States has done throughout the world in murdering millions of innocent people in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, on and on and on. Mr. Falk is exactly right. It's a miracle that we've only had 2 cases of documented successful acts of terrorism against the United States. The first one, of course, taking place on September 11th of 2001, and then the other one taking place on April the 15th of 2013. Only 2 out of millions of innocent Muslims that have been killed around the world by the United States, and yet only twice now that we've had to deal with this. So in that respect, Mr. Falk is correct. It's a miracle that there hasn't been more blowback, considering the amount of carnage and oppression that the United States has caused around the world.
We just have under a minute left, Mr. Glenn. I want to ask then, should we expect that other high officials in places like the United Nations will wake up to the truth as Mr. Falk did?
I think that they all know the truth. Let's not make any mistake about this. They know that this is the result of American foreign policy around the world, killing innocent people. Whether they actually have the guts to go through with saying this or not is another matter altogether. These economies of these Western countries are held in obeisance to organized Zionist interests who control the money flow and the finances, and let's not forget about the whole political system. So they know the truth. It's just a matter of whether or not they are men or women enough to admit it.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Of course, we appreciate your insight as always. That was Mr. Mark Glenn speaking to us live from Idaho.